Hello, my friends, and welcome to Cathy Chat. I love to network. I'm sure that's no big surprise. And every time I network, I meet someone fantastic. And today, I want you to meet Wen McNally. I got to meet Wen recently at a Happy Neighborhood Project event with the one, the only Carolyn Williams of For My Card fame. And she said, "This is my friend from Tybee Island, Georgia." And I said, "Any friend of Carolyn's is automatically a friend of mine." And I invited Wen McNally herself to Cathy Chat. Welcome, my friend. How are you today?
I am doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
As soon as I saw your background, I'm kind of a magnet for all things Zoom backgrounds. As soon as I saw your background and then I saw virtual remote photography, I thought, I got to figure out what that means. So tell our friends a little bit about you.
Okay, my name is Wen McNally, and I live in South Georgia and in the Savannah area. And I have been a portrait photographer my whole life. I've had my business for 20 years, but I first picked up
Wow.
a camera when I was about 14. When I first owned my first real camera, my dad bought me a Canon A1 from a pawn shop. So
I remember Canon. Oh my
Yep,
gosh.
yep, and, so it's been part of my whole life, and, so I've had a portrait business for 20 years, and, in Virginia, I had a studio, and I specialized in high school senior portraits there, and then about 13 years ago, I moved south down here to the coast of Georgia, and where the beach is my studio. So, I do a lot of family portraits on the beach, tourists on vacation, and then this year, I have started branching out into virtual photography, and which is remote sessions that I can do with any client around the world that has a strong Wi-Fi and a recent cell phone. So,
Oh my goodness. And that's why I was going to say, I can't imagine going from in-person photography and on-location photography and the headshots that we need for our professional bios and profiles to virtual remote. Those two names literally popped out to me and I was like, I got to figure out how this happens.
yep.
This
So,
is this is
so
awesome.
it's through the technology of there's a couple apps that are out there that were created by photographers during the quarantine time. They just got creative, or they knew how to code and knew how to, do some stuff, and they wanted to get creative. And several photographers used it during that time just as something to do because everybody was home and bored. And a lot of those photographers were like, okay, it was fun to play with, but now that we're back to real business, but I'm like, oh, wait a minute, this is like great, and this is where stuff is going to go. And the better technology gets, the better it's going to get. So there are some obstacles and some things that we have to work through, with it. But all of these pictures behind me have been taken virtually remote and from all over the world. There's Singapore, Toronto, Quebec, Sydney, Australia, New York, all
My
over.
goodness, you have it all covered, it looks like. And isn't it amazing? I have asked the question before, if not for the pandemic, what? And of course, travesty. I mean, seriously, the world
Yeah.
shut down, all of the horrible things that happened because of it. But many of us have experienced dynamic change and growth because of it. And it sounds like the apps that were created during the pandemic for the photography industry has blessed you times a million. This
Yeah.
just sounds
Yeah.
awesome to me.
Yeah. This definitely brings up, a lot of opportunities, and it's just been great. So, and you had mentioned Carolyn Williams, who is just the networking queen.
Yes,
And we've
absolutely.
always networked locally together. And when she moved more into the virtual space, she was always inviting me to these Zoom meetings, and I was like, it's not the best use of my time. I can't really do business with people around the world. And so, I was still going to my local luncheons and everything. But when I started doing this, I told her, I said, I'm going to see you all the time now.
Well, I do think that's awesome. And you are correct. Carolyn Williams of For My Card fame is a phenomenal connector. And
Yeah.
she always says at any meeting I've ever been to with her, who are you looking for? Who can I connect you with? What can I do for you?
Exactly.
And so that is always one of those things you're just like, nobody ever asked those questions. And Carolyn does every time.
Yep. Mhm.
And that's how we got connected. And I'm thrilled for that.
Yeah.
Can you walk us through a little bit about, like, what does the session look like? If a client is going to say, well, I live in New York, California, Hawaii. I live not in Tybee Island, Georgia, not in Savannah. Oh, can you walk us through a little bit? You mentioned that we need Wi-Fi and a current phone.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have to make sure I've got a backdrop and a green screen and a doodah, or how do you do that?
Not necessarily. So the main thing would be a tripod,
Okay.
which as I get my format set up and everything, because I'm still very new at this. I just started this a couple months ago.
Oh, wow.
But the if a client doesn't have a tripod, then I can do an add-on to their session, include a tripod, have one drop shipped to them before the session. So
Oh,
everything starts with just contacting me, and then we do like an information, like a discovery meeting. That's just about 15 minutes. It could be a week or 2 weeks or whatever before the actual photo shoot. But that way we can connect. I can let you know what the app is, what the software needs to be downloaded on your phone. I can find out what phone you have, so I'll know which phone I'm working with. So I am using the client's cell phone. And they, at the beginning of our connection, you can see me on the screen, and there's like this video connection, just like what we see right now,
uh-huh.
live stream. And then once we actually start the session and I have them put the phone on the tripod, it's going to be turned around because the good lenses are on the back side of the phone.
Wow.
Your
All
main
right.
lenses,
Good to
not
know.
your
Yeah.
selfie lenses. So those are the lenses that I'm going to use. The app gives me control over only the camera part of your phone. So I can't see anything else. I can't see your camera roll. I can't access your bank accounts or anything like that. I only have access to the lenses on your phone, and a few minor adjustments. I can adjust some exposure and stuff like that. And then as I shoot the pictures, they are collected either just in the app on the phone during the session, or they'll transmit during, while I'm shooting them. I have the option, and I'm kind of playing around with both ways to see which is the fastest. If it's better to just shoot them, let them collect, and then after the session, they leave their phone on for the next 30 minutes or whatever. Then all of the files go into the cloud. They do not reside on the phone, so the client doesn't have them and they don't see them until after I get them. Then I can cull through them, pick out the good ones. Then I do an edit on them, and then I put them on my client galleries, just like my regular in-person clients would see. So
There are step to each piece, and it sounds like you've got a perfect handle on this process. And I continue to just stare because those pictures behind you are amazing.
well, thank you.
I mean, seriously, I see Carolyn's son, and you definitely captured him. This is just seriously
Yeah,
magnificent.
there's the other one of him, when you
Yeah.
can see the city skyline behind him there. So
Absolutely. And that's why when I saw that, I thought, virtual photography remotely, how does she do that? And so your talent shines through. And I think it's your creativity part that adds one more flair to this that keeps us from not being able to do this ourselves for sure.
yeah, and one thing about the discovery phone call that I was saying, when I find out what phone you're using and
Uh-huh.
everything, I have the client give me a tour of their space. So I'm like, take me
Oh,
to
there we go.
biggest
Okay.
what your biggest windows. If you have a bedroom, like a lot of these were even shot in their bedrooms with a blank wall. They might have taken the pictures off the wall and just
Okay.
set them aside so that we have a nice blank wall to work with. And then I just have to touch up the nail hole, but like this one with the keyboard over here, which way, this way,
Yes.
that's just in her bedroom. And you can see the tree is like right next to the window. So it's nice, soft window light that falls across her. And then this other one of her right here, that was a different bedroom, but I had her closer to the window. Sometimes the curtains still look really nice, to have curtains. But because I have so many years of experience in photography, I see light all the time. I mean, if I'm just having a conversation with somebody, I catch the catch lights in their eyes, and I sometimes want to be like, turn just this way, just a little bit, because the lighting's perfect. And so that is the advantage of having the years of experience that I have, is they can just give me a quick tour of their space, and I know what the light's going to be like.
And
So
not having to worry about backdrops and green screens and all those things in a person's home, because I'm
yeah,
sure
so if
that's
you just have the curtain space and a blank wall, that's like
wow.
perfect. And then we can still do the cutout. We can do things, in Canva and Photoshop and stuff like that to drop you into, your virtual backdrops, or you're presenting your screen, or your words and text that we can drop in on top of things. But if there is a blank space, that's great. If there's not, if it's still just kind of a little cluttered space, or we have some things to work with, we could still work with it. The main thing is getting the good light, and then as much as I can, then I can do the virtual stuff afterwards, the graphic design work, basically.
That is magnificent, honestly. And the artistic flair that you have is another thing. Because, of course, I stalked you on your website. And so I wanted to see, what does wenmcnally.com look like? And you've got the coolest pictures on there as well. And then adding the virtual piece to that is incredible. And to have virtual headshots of it, because think about, if some folks haven't gotten a new updated headshot since pre-COVID, when they were in person with a photographer, you've
Exactly.
already got that part worked out.
Yep. Yeah, and it's in the comfort of your own home. So, your outfits are there. You can show me, I was thinking about this shirt or this shirt. Which one do you think? Which color you think looks best? Or we can discuss your branding and, all of those things. And then, they could be like, oh, wait a minute, I have that blazer. If you're in the studio, you could be like, oh, I forgot that. It was hanging on the door before I left, or, so
And
which
I'm
I
sure
had a
that
lot in my studio shooting, where everybody's like, oh, we were all ready, and then we went off and forgot this or that. And but you have your own makeup kit, you got your own, hairbrush and curling iron if you want to touch something up. And yeah, so it's there's a lot of advantages of having it in the comfort of your own home. So
and I never would have thought, first of all, that this was possible. So I think that part is applause all over the place. But the rest of the story is, I certainly would never have thought I would be driving this bus from a standpoint of headshots in my own home or office. And so you really have taken the mystique part out of that. How much of this is Wen, and how much of this is the app? And because it sounds like the app is just a basic something, and you add all the pieces to it to make these headshots so amazing.
oh yeah, I mean, if it was just the app itself, you're just gonna be looking at somebody's office or their living room, or it's knowing where to tell them to stand. And then during the shoot, I'm more of an introvert, and so I don't really talk a lot. So in my regular personal, my one-to-one shoots and stuff like that in person, I'm doing a lot of like, oh, okay, pose like this, or turn your head like this. Well, they can't see me in these shoots, so I'm having to pull out my words and really use my words and direction. And okay, just put your chin down just a tiny bit, and I'll just turn just a little bit more towards the window, because I'm looking for the highlights in the eyes, all the little details that I would look for in a regular photo shoot. So I'm directing down to the littlest detail, of where to stand and how to pose yourself. So
I really love the expertise, yes, but also the creativity. And it seems like all of those are the perfect fit. So when you decided to go from in-person photography in a studio or on location, and you decided to start the virtual, I feel like there are zero limits now.
yeah, and the only real limit is your strong data or Wi-Fi.
Mm-hmm.
Because two of the shoots that I did, one of them was in Sydney, Australia, and one of them was in Singapore. And we did the ones in their house, and then they're like, oh, there's this really nice park across the street. And as soon as they went out of the building, then our video gets kind of garbled. And, I need to be able to see and talk to the client. So when that video starts getting slow and sketchy, I can't tell if they're smiling or anything. We might be able to connect a little bit, and we've gotten a few, but it really slows it down. So And I don't know, I can't be like, well, how fast is your data plan? Or, it's like, I don't know those kind of details, especially in another country. But it's only going to get better from here. And so that's why, okay, if the in the home is my limitation right now, then we'll stay in the home. And then like these two right here, they went out on their balcony. So they still had their strong Wi-Fi. So this one was in the financial district of Toronto. And then the other one was in Singapore. But they were still in a very strong Wi-Fi area because it was right outside of their glass door. So so it's still getting creative with, or like Charlie's here with the scene behind him. He's still in his house, but you can see New York City behind him through his window. So them giving me the tour of their space, otherwise I wouldn't have known that you could see that, so I need to be able to have that little bit of a tour ahead of time. So, and that could be the day before the shoot or whenever we do that discovery call. It doesn't always have to be the day of the shoot, because a little bit ahead of time, then they can plan for it. Or if they know that they want to move some clutter out of the room or, something in that space that we might be shooting in, it gives them time to do that. So
this is fascinating. And you really have your entire portfolio. I mean, of course, portions of it, but you've got your portfolio with you everywhere you go when you're on a Zoom call. Yeah. And I truly feel that the art of virtual networking has taken a new level of awesomeness. It certainly has for my business. And it sounds like this is definitely the wave of the future, not only for you, but many folks who are in the same space as far as your industry. How would you recommend, what's the best way for our friends to get in contact with you, just to have that discovery call, if nothing else, because this is a whole new world?
Yeah, really just the QR code here on my backdrop is the best way. That is my digital business card. And so when you scan that, that will take you to my my digital card. There's 2 links on there. One takes you to my traditional website, which is wenmcnally.com. And then the other one is just more like a gallery site. So it has a longer URL on it, but you can just click it. And I keep updating that every virtual shoot I do. I put a few more images in there. So that gallery is growing, and eventually I'll have an extra page on my wenmcnally.com site and everything, but it's growing so fast that I haven't had a chance to update the traditional website to include it.
And the growth fast part always fascinates me as well. Do you do a lot of virtual networking now, or do your current clients say, oh my gosh, you've got to call Wen? How does that work?
Well, a lot of these that were in the sessions that I've done up, that are behind me here, we were in a networking group, not necessarily networking, but a group to get better on video. And so I started with those people because I knew that they would have a tripod. So,
okay.
And then we were already friends. We were, networking, and we encourage each other. We have a safe space where we post practice videos as we're, just getting better on camera. And so I started with them. And then a lot of them recommended with each other. And then, but now I'm doing, a lot more virtual networking, like with Carolyn, because she's so connected. And so I've been on like 4 or 5 Zoom meetings this week. So
she's very connected, that's for sure. And
I also didn't want to get out there in the virtual networking space until I had a gallery up, and, because otherwise you're answering all these questions that people don't like. What do you mean virtual remote? But having the visual behind me, it speaks for itself. And so the response has been great this week. So,
oh my gosh, I'm sure that it has. And that's why as soon as I met you, I thought Cathy Chat must have you on the show, because there are folks out there who I'm sure have never heard of this or didn't think it was possible, or certainly to have someone with your dynamic personality to be able to walk them through it, how to get an updated headshot, or certainly a very cool virtual background with their picture in it. I love everything about this concept. What is the very best way? The QR code, yes, but the very best way. Are you on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, all those things, or where is your
I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and it's all Wen McNally. My Facebook is Wen McNally Photography and Real Estate. But if you just Google Wen McNally, I'm going to come up. So,
I'm sure you will. That's a very specific
yeah.
name. You're in real estate too. How do you have time for anything?
I actually got my license for real estate during quarantine because I was like, at home. All my photo shoots were canceled. I wasn't shooting remotely at the time.
Oh, God.
And, every family vacation and wedding was canceled. And so I just said, well, I'm going to come out of this year better than when I started. So I'm going to become a real estate agent too. So
That is so awesome. And once again, out of the pandemic, some good things have certainly happened.
exactly.
And definitely for many of us, our business has either taken a different turn or continued on a big and a much better trajectory, actually. So it sounds like that's definitely your journey. I love, love, love this.
Yeah.
Is there any final thoughts before we say goodbye? These are very short, and I'm sorry about that piece because 15 or 20 minutes is usually our Cathy Chat length. I could talk to you forever, especially for the share screen, show and tell, things like that. Is there any final thoughts you'd like to give to our friends watching today or certainly on the replay?
Well, I want you to just really realize how important an updated headshot is. If your current profile picture doesn't look like you, and then when somebody meets you, that's not good for business. And you want it to look like you. You don't want it to look too made up, too touched up, and it needs to be genuine. A nice smile, eye contact. Um, it's just really important. I watched a webinar this week on our digital profiles, and it takes 50 milliseconds for a first impression. So that's real important for your profile picture. So
50 milliseconds.
50 milliseconds.
Wowza. I always say you don't have a second chance to make a first impression, but now you really don't.
Right. So it
That
is
is
very important. And it's also important to not just have one image. I mean, you can have your main profile picture, but if you're on all the social media platforms, by doing an actual personal branding session that we can do virtually, so you're getting more than just one picture, you can change outfits, have multiple images, and then you have content, to use for your platforms. So
That is magnificent. And once again, I thank you so much for being on Cathy Chat today.
yes,
Friends, if you have not had a chance yet to connect with Wen McNally, please do so. Again, Wen McNally, all over the internet. Do a Google search. You'll be able to find out some of her glorious locations as far as social media platforms, and definitely we'll put the link for you to connect with her on in this video. So thank you again for joining us today on Cathy Chat. Wen, I am so excited for the future of your business and certainly for all the dynamic pictures that you are going to create for our friends on this call.
great. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
See you later, my friends, on Cathy Chat. Bye for now.